Are you a minimalist? Do you want to take control of your personal finances? The good news is that these two ideas complement each other. In fact, the minimalist movement is spreading across the globe as a means of assisting people in tackling overabundance in all aspects of their lives, including finances. At first glance, financial minimalism appears to be self-explanatory, but there are components to the approach that go much deeper than you might expect. It goes beyond simply saving money and spending less. Sure, that's the general idea, but putting it into practice requires a little more effort and comprehension. Minimalism, as opposed to the art or music movements of the same name, entails living with fewer resources, whether they are materialistic possessions or other conceptual forms of excess in our lives. It's a way of life that revolves around getting rid of unnecessary abundance and finding happiness in only the things that matter. Minimalism calls into question one's concepts of ownership, assets, pleasure, and social standards. Alain de Botton, a British philosopher, frequently speaks about why an ordinary life is no longer good, especially in a world filled with more external pleasures than ever before, whether from peers and colleagues, friends and family, or media and culture. Ordinary life is something that previous generations only dreamt of in most developed or developing societies around the world today. Running water, adequate shelter, consistent food supplies, and access to education, technology, or entertainment are all taken for granted. Instead of living an ordinary life, many of us aspire to live an extraordinary one. To some extent, aspirations are healthy, but the social constructs we've created tend to promote an extreme desire for more and more, until we lose ourselves to a ruthless and ultimately empty cause. Minimalism, in a nutshell, is a reaction to this relentless materialism and uncontrollable desire for more. We ultimately learn to live more balanced and happier lives by learning to live with less and reprogramming our mindset away from the unhealthy obsession with excess. It may sound paradoxical to adopt the philosophy of having less for a concept like finance, which ultimately revolves around you having more in terms of wealth. There are a few misconceptions to address in this regard. For one thing, minimalism is primarily concerned with combating excess, not abundance. Yes, there are more extreme fringe minimalism sub-movements that focus on destroying everything you own, including the clothes on your back. But let's leave those out of the equation. In terms of finance, an unhealthy obsession with excessive wealth can lead you to a variety of problems. While blinded by the prospect of ridiculous wealth, you may make poor investment decisions or put too much risk on the line. You too could be duped. There are many criminals that lure you in with the promise of riches. Specificity and emotional strength, on the other hand, are the pillars of the financially secure. When making big financial decisions, think with your head rather than your heart, as Warren Buffett and other greats may advise new investors. Furthermore, be specific in the terms of the figures and the long-term goals you're aiming for. Above all, ask yourself, why? Number 1. Be specific with your money goals. What is the figure in your head that you consider satisfactory, and why is that sufficient? The more specific your description, the better. The rules of specificity is followed by many financial experts, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. Everyone wants to be a billionaire one day, but few have a detailed plan for how to get there, let alone a genius reason for wanting to be a billionaire in the first place. When you ask yourself these types of questions, you'll notice that your figure becomes much more reasonable and achievable. $100 million could be something more specific depending on what you intend to use it for. Number 2. Plan a route to your financial destination. Following that, it's a good idea to start breaking down how you intend to achieve this figure over time. What kinds of investment vehicles do you need? What are your projected annual returns? How much should you put aside? How much more should you be earning per month? What are you going to do without? The more you plan, the clearer your path to financial enlightenment becomes. Number 3. Be okay with letting go. The majority of the minimalist approach is knowing what to keep and what to discard in terms of your lifestyle, assets, expenses, and habits. Have you ever heard of the term FIRE, financial independence, retire early? It's a separate movement that focuses on retiring as soon as possible through financial independence. And the simplest way to achieve this is by adjusting your lifestyle to your earning power until you find a sweet spot where savings and earnings are optimized for speed. Many people are unaware that there is a link between FIRE and minimalism, in that they aren't as glamorous as you might think. Successful FIRE advocates have refined their living standards to the point where many of us would find it unappealing. Many of them ride bicycles and have given up their cars. They live in small but cozy houses. They grow their own food, and they avoid many of life's material luxuries that many of us enjoy or take for granted. They become millionaires, but they may not resemble the average wealthy person. Regardless, they claim to be happier now than they ever were before. They've learned to let go and be content with stepping down the traditional ladder to achieve their objectives. In fact, they've made it a way of life. A minimalist lifestyle, similarly, can be taken to what some may consider extremes. Minimalism, on the other hand, is less demanding than FIRE. It is up to you to decide what you are comfortable with as you reduce your excesses. You decide how much of your life should be simplified. Begin by taking a close look at your expenses, spending habits, and revenue sources. Make a list of everything you could live without. Yes, this can be difficult if you're overly attached. And then, gradually eliminate the unnecessary. Allow some time when things become uncomfortable to see if you can adapt, or if it is too much too soon for you. Minimalism isn't for everyone. Some of us are happy chasing overabundance, or at least happy with the mindset of striving for more to be on the safe side. One thing's for sure, it's possible to extract pieces of useful aspects from minimalism to use for your own personal finance. Ultimately, many of the elements of minimalism exist in the routine advice from personal finance experts anyway, so it's worth considering. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and press the notification bell so you never miss out on our next videos. Until the next video, take care.